So Aston Villa kick off their 25-26 Premier League campaign with a goalless draw against Newcastle. Usually when these two teams meet, it's either a 4-0 win, a 5-1 win, 4-1. We've had all sorts of results when Villa go to St James's, when Newcastle come to Villa Park. However, today, no goals, very few talking points, to be perfectly honest with you. Major talking point, I guess, Ezri Konsa getting sent off in, I think it was the 66th minute. So Villa playing with 10 men for about half an hour, just over half an hour I think it was. 6 minutes added time at the end of the match. But really there was very few opportunities for either side. Newcastle probably shading that. The first half they had a great chance when Anthony Elanga raced through. At the start of the game, Marco Bizot making a good save. A chance that really Elanga should be taking or squaring to Anthony Gordon, but credit to the new Villa keeper, kept it out, and they made a smart save as well to deny Gordon not so long after, pushing the ball away. Gordon striking from around the edge of the box, Bizot making 3 saves, 3 claims, so a strong performance from him. I remember writing it after I'd seen him in pre-season twice, so not a big sample size. However, you could already tell this was a goalkeeper who was an upgrade on Robin Olsen, 34 years of age, and Bizot is going to be, comfortably a player who Villa can rely on, I think, to deputise Remy Martinez when needed. Villa will go to Brentford next week without Ezri Konsa after his red card, but having Martinez back will be, I don't think it will completely cancel that out, because I think Bizot would be more than capable of stepping into Martinez's shoes. It'd be interesting to see whether Kamara or Bogart play instead of Konsa on that right side of defence. But today, a 0-0, it's a bit of a strange way to open the season, really. I think ideally, obviously, you want to start it with a victory and some goals, but I do think there are also some positives that you can take from the game. What I would say is that Villa struggled, I think, in the first half to really put any sort of passage of play together. They were sloppy in possession, they gave the ball away far too much. Newcastle, for me, were the better side. Villa were then managing to get themselves together, I thought, at the start of the second period. Kamara having the first real chance that Villa had all game, up until he had that chance, and was it just after the start of the second half? It was, I think, John McGinn curling the ball into the box, really good cross. Kamara's header right down the middle, though you think either side of Nick Pope, it would probably go in. So that was probably Villa's best opportunity from memory. Then you had some efforts on goal. I think Villa had 3 shots, maybe, all match, like not a lot. Morgan Rogers stumbling over his feet towards the end of the game, probably tiredness more than anything else. So yeah, a frustrating way to start the season, I guess. But in the end, having played with 30 minutes with only 10 men on the pitch, I don't think many Villa fans will be leaving with too much disappointment. You take it and you move on. It's a home game and you want to win. You want to win all of your home matches, but then you go back to the 5-1 that Villa suffered, that defeat back at St James's a couple of years ago now, and Villa finished 4th for that campaign. So it's proof that the first match of the season counts for, you say, very little. I kind of disagree with myself there already, but I'm trying to say that what we saw on the pitch doesn't count for a whole lot yet. It's still so early, the window's still open, and I think we saw some players maybe lagging towards the end of the game, and as well in terms of sequences of play. As I mentioned in the first half, there really wasn't much going, not much to excite Villa fans. Newcastle, I think you credit them, and you have to say that, to be fair, they took the game to Villa. They can't be on the ball or anything like that, even though Alexander Isak wasn't in the team as their star man, of course. And I think, to be fair, if Isak was on the pitch today, maybe Villa don't come away with a point. They'd certainly be going behind in the match, I'm pretty sure. I do think that was a big miss for Newcastle, I think, as we all thought it would be. But then Villa nullified Isak completely back in April, was it, when they beat them 4-1. So yeah, it's kind of different kind of ways of looking at that. Can I go to the Konsa red card quickly? I don't think anyone can have any complaints. Cash gives the ball away, and then in behind, Gordon runs and Conte has to bring him down. So has to bring him down. That was the decision he made. But as soon as he made that decision, it was never going to be one which the referee would have ignored. Straight red card. No complaints from me. No complaints from Emery. Emery in his post-match press conference spoke about how. Well, again, firstly, no complaints about Conte's red card, but he did say that completely changed the game. I don't know if I go that far, but I do agree that it certainly changed momentum, and Villa were, for me, on top. I think, this Newcastle side, they would have snapped your hand off for a draw before the start of the game, and considering the way it was going at the start of that second half, I think they would have probably camped behind the ball a bit more, given Villa the impetus of playing in front of the whole end. You never know what's going to happen in the last 20 minutes of a match. Marlon was on the bench, Gesson was on the bench. Marlon was the only player to come on. Emery talking about how it's always hard to bring substitutes into the game because of the nature of it, the kind of game state, if you will. He said that the structure of the team, it was hard to kind of break that at that point. So I think that's why we didn't see any of the subs come on. Shame to not see Gesson come into the game, but again, with 10 men, I don't think you can risk a point, risk losing a point at that stage, because Newcastle would have fancied themselves. But as it turned out, no major incidents in the last 20 minutes, half an hour. Then that could have been the case. We're cross now, mate. Anyway, and for that, I'd say that it's a point which, in the end, Villa would have settled for when Conte received his marching orders. So Villa now go to Brentford next weekend, an opportunity to get the first win of the season, but it's still an away game and it's still a Premier League side. The Premier League side, of course, have been we've gutted out really. No Norgard, no Mbuemo. I presume Wissa won't be involved. Not too sure on that situation. New manager. Of course, they sold the goalkeeper too, although they're probably upgrading that position for me, bringing Keller instead of Flecken. But we'll see how Villa go there. Again, I do think that's a big opportunity to get the first win on the board, and then you go to then you've got Palace, the weekend after, before the international break. I won't comment too much on that because it's Palace, and we know what happens, or what has happened in the last 12 months, losing several matches, and them conceding a boatload of goals as well. So something will have to change, hopefully for the better for Villa, in that meeting of those two teams. Where else can we go? I mean, again, a 0-0 on the opening day is hardly ideal for content and coverage. It eases you into the season. No major talking points to sort of go over. I think the way that Villa set up with no Marlon and Gesson on the bench as well, I think some fans might have been scratching their heads a little bit of, well, Marlon still can't start a game, but I even said before the match that Onana and Kamara should be the double pivot and you push Tielemans forward, so I can't claim to kind of suggest otherwise now, but I do think that in the first half Villa lacked missed Tielemans' ability to get on the ball, use the ball in tight spaces and progress it from there, because it seems so often that there'd be a second ball in the middle of the pitch and Villa would win it, but the ball would quickly be overturned because they didn't quite have the quality in Onana and Kamara to retain the ball and retain possession, and that's why we didn't see Luka Dean so high and wide as often as he'd have liked. I think Elanga gave him a hard time for most of the game, to be perfectly honest. I think Maatsen played so well against Newcastle last season, whether he could have made a bigger difference today, I'm not totally sure, because as I say, Villa lacked the ball to a point where their fullbacks couldn't really get too much involved. Matty Cash made two important blocks, well, certainly one of them was an important block. Blocked Gordon's shot in the 71st minute, I think it was. That was a bit of a pile driver from outside the box, and then got in the way of Harvey Barnes. I think it was a volley inside the box. That was an important block for Cash to put his body on the line there. Mings-Torres was the only other kind of team news talking point, I suppose. Chose Mings, I would have chosen Mings too. And as I say, in the midfield, I can't really argue with it too much, because what I said pre-game is what Emery went with. A shame not to see some players come on sooner rather than later in the game, but ultimately you understand Emery's thinking. for it at the same time. So Brentford next week, a team who, well, at the time I'm recording this, I don't know how they'll get on in their first match of the season. I think they'll be in for a struggle, but equally it's still their first home game of the campaign next week against a Villa team will be, not desperate to get a win. It's only the start of the season, but the faster you can get that first win of the season, certainly the better. If you think about it, if Villa can get 2 wins on the board between now and the end of this section of fixtures, so the first 3 before the September international break, they'll be sitting on 7, which I think most people would have taken before kick-off today. Obviously that means they're now only to win 2 games in a row, one against Brentford, one against Palace. Much harder, easier said than done. Sorry, but that will have to be the aim now.